A lot many times you might have used fonts, but have you ever wondered what a font is? Now, font, if you want to have a look at it, it's pretty much characters having the same design and appearance. Now, let's look at this chalkboard font. Don't bother where I'm showing this. I'll explain that in some time. So if you look at chalkboard font, all these characters, they have the same style or same design, language or appearance. So they all look like how you write in a chalk, like how a kid might write in a chalk. So this is for the alphabets, uppercase, lowercase, and the numbers. Sometimes even for the symbols. Now, when you look for a different one, like say brush script. Now, brush script has a font like a typical handwriting, but all the fonts they share the same design language or the same appearance. Now, where is this font located? The font is actually in your machine. When you just type font in your Mac, that leads to the font folder. Even in Windows, if you search for the fonts folder, you would find. So inside that, you might see all these fonts now. Okay, so there is also fonts in the browser storage. Now there's two fonts. Now we're talking about fonts stored at two places. One is your Mac or Windows. The OS itself. The OS itself has some fonts. Now that's what you're looking at here. The Mac fonts and a few fonts are available. A similar list of fonts are available in Windows. Now, if you see brush script wherever it is, whether when you define something as brush script, whether it is in the Mac, whether it is in the browser storage, whether it is in the Windows storage, it's all the same. The list is all the same, but Mac might have a few extra fonts and Windows might have few, or browser storage might have few. So I'll show you the browser storage fonts. We have to go to settings, appearance, and then look for customize fonts. Now customize fonts is pretty much to customize the fonts the way you see in the browser. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to show that this browser is holding its own list of fonts. Now these lists, right? This storage is typically the browser storage that comes with Chrome. So Chrome might have a different storage. The Mozilla Firefox might have a different storage. Safari might have a different storage. So all these fonts, if you look at it, the list is actually huge. I mean, the huge than what we saw on the Mac. Now, the reason I'm telling you all this is because let's say you find some interesting font somewhere. Someone tells you that this is the font that they want in your website. When let's say you're designing a website and they ask you to use that font. Now, just by saying font family and naming that font will not work. For that font to work, let's say there is a new font called Panther. Now, this Panther has to be either in your OS fonts, list of OS fonts, or the list of browser fonts. The reason is when the browser, when you actually launch this page, list.html, styles.css, I'm having something called Panther. Now, when you try to use this, browser obviously reads all the border text indentation with all that, even the font family. So the browser will try to represent this text in that particular font. Now, to apply that font in this text, that font has to be in the browser storage, the list that we saw. There is a browser storage. Browser will have a few fonts, like how the Mac has these fonts, right? So if this Panther font is available in either browser storage or the Mac or the OS storage, it will try to show the text. So it will render the text in that font. So that's how font works. Now, you really need to know this, because the next time you write a HTML CSS file and you use a font, that font has to be up. I mean, font has to be available for the audience, for the user who's gonna use your website. Now, let's say it's not Panther, but it is a very good font that is available in the market. Now you're gonna use that font, which is, let's say, call it Tiger. Now the Tiger is really popular, but only 1/3 of the population is having Tiger in their mission. Okay, they don't have that font in their mission. Now in that case, what happens is 2/3 of the population, that font is not applied. Now, when the font is not applied, the page doesn't looks good. Meaning, you might have something in the mind, like say the whole page has a tiger image, all that. So you have a font which looks like the uh, probably the tiger's uh, tail, or the tiger's body, or tiger's teeth. I don't know. So basically, a whole different design language. So when you intend to have a font style called like Tiger, and 2/3 of them are not using it, or even consider like 2/3 of them have the Tiger font and the 1/3 don't have it. Even in that case, 1/3 not seeing the font right will affect your user experience. People will not like your website. So it's always best to have web safe fonts. Just search for web safe fonts and you will see there are a few fonts like these. So these are all web safe fonts, meaning these fonts will work in Chrome, Mozilla, Firefox, Safari browser, all these Windows OS, Mac OS, all that. So these are all some of the web safe fonts. Now, let's say personally, I'm having this page and I can install a font too. So let's say there is a font called Lucida handwriting font. Install. I'll tell you what this install is. Pretty much you can find these fonts and install in your mission. So when I do an install here, this gets installed in the Mac fonts. Now these fonts are all installed. Now, but it comes default with the font, but you can also install more fonts. You can also do that in Windows. Now, when you install these fonts, it will show in your mission. So the font has to be available either in the browser storage or in the OS storage. So the point being, if I install the font will be available and you could use the font. So that's the point. But why do I say that? We'll see that in the next video.